Thanks for tuning in to Ballistic Strength Radio. We had originally planned to release our conversation with John DePadua of Core Physiotherapy and the Core Competitive Kettlebell team, but unfortunately could not due to technical difficulties. We will be touching base with John following Canadian Nationals to catch up with him on his team's performance there, as well as recap some topics discussed in our original recording. And don't forget, we have our second annual Grip Strength Kettlebell competition coming up on September 15th at the Coast Bastion Inn in Nanaimo, British Columbia, Canada. Registration is on right now and open to all lifters. Sign up before August 6th and you can get your additional events free of charge. That's $75 Canadian plus GST for one or more events. Register within the early bird period, again until August 6th. And you also have the option of getting your event t-shirt for only $5 Canadian, plus GST. I'm also hosting a post-comp barbecue at my residence in Nanaimo. Tickets for that are $20. This year we are also modifying Snatch Only to make it a little bit more interesting and potentially more competitive. Perhaps we can get some people trying a bell weight heavier than they are used to, and give them that nudge to keep plowing forward with their progress. All of these options are available at www.gripstrength.ca/registration. I'd also like to thank some of the local businesses and organizations who are supporting us this year, such as the Nanaimo Hospitality Association, Panago Pizza North, Popeyes Nanaimo, and Alloyed Fitness Equipment. Today we have a special episode for you. Jay Perkins of Austin, Texas is one of the founding members of Kettlebell Kings, the Texas-based kettlebell supplier. Since Kettlebell Kings sold their first kettlebell in 2013, they have earned a reputation for carefully designed and high-quality equipment, as well as consistent and meaningful customer engagement. If you'd like to know more about the inner workings of Kettlebell Kings, don't go anywhere.
So let's just start off basic. Can you give us a little bit of your history before Kettlebell Kings? What did you do before Kettlebell Kings?
So Kettlebell Kings is technically my third job since college, I guess you would say. So for the first 6 years after college, I actually did financial planning.
Okay.
And that's a pretty tough job. It's pretty sales intensive. I thought I was going to be, investing people's money and making people millions of dollars. And first day on the job, they talked about how this is boiler room and this is a sales job. So I managed to do that for 6 years. And then for about that, the immediate time after that, I was selling software for about 18 months at an e-commerce company. And we actually started the business on the software that I was selling.
Okay. So
Kettlebells have been full-time for about 4 years now.
And are you kind of the finance guy out of the three owners?
No, that would actually be Nehemiah.
Okay.
So, one of the exciting things as the business grows is there's just so much to do that you have to start actually having divisions of labor. Mm-hmm. And we are actually just now getting into that in the past 6 months. And so Nehemiah does the finance. My other partner, Chad Price, handles the business to business, and I run operations and marketing.
Oh, okay. So you guys kind of have your divisions, and then you share kind of communication and discuss things, and kind of take it off into your different avenues and whatnot that you guys specialize in.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, we've always tried to make team decisions, and most decisions go in front of the team before anything is okay. Mm-hmm. But, like I mentioned, we've been very fortunate to continue to grow our business each year over the past 4 years. And so the sheer volume of it all necessitates we're in business with each other because we trust each other in the first place. And so that more so than ever when it's like, hey, we don't need to see every single thing that comes across each of our desks. And we have this divisions of labor now.
So what were some of those important questions in the beginning that required all three of you to have your input on and to kind of be all on the same page about?
That's a great question. The short answer would be everything, and that just goes. I mean, that just goes from different tweaks in how the logo looked when we first started. That that was a big group process. How the website looks, the verbiage on our product description, choosing the different models, the different color schemes on the kettlebells themselves. Shipping questions. One of the big debates when we first started was, we were the first company to do free shipping, I believe, through our website. And so, it was a big team decision. Should we actually do this free shipping thing? It seems kind of insane.
It is kind of insane because when it comes to kettlebells and weights, you're literally paying for the weight.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's why the shipping companies actually love us, because it's heavy, compact packages that are pretty durable.
Well, and it also makes such a difference on, like, if people are pricing out various companies. There's
right.
going to be a huge price difference just by taking shipping alone out of the equation.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And so, I mean, that's an example of how that was all team decision making in the beginning. Now more so, I handle the shipping contract negotiations and just put it in front of the team, and we go over different options. And it's a little bit more. Each of us have our own divisions now, but that would be an example. Another example would just be if we were working with a chain of gyms. We've been fortunate starting to provide for some gym chains this year, where that would have been a collaborative effort on pricing, and let's all get our heads together. And for example, now Chad handles all that.
Okay.
Or in the past, paying suppliers. It would have been something where maybe I'm paying one bill, maybe Nehemiah is paying another bill, but now it's paid. Send everything to Nehemiah. He's taking care of it.
Mm-hmm. So what made you guys want to go into being kettlebell suppliers? Like, what initiated that conversation between the three of you that you wanted to start this company?
Well, so like I mentioned, I was selling software, and so it was e-commerce software. Anytime you buy something online, there's software making that experience happen. And in order to effectively sell that product, I learned a lot about online businesses and what it takes to build an online business, so I could have more intelligent conversations with the prospects that I was talking to for that software. All three of us had, I guess, what you would call corporate jobs at the time, or like, as I refer to them, real jobs. So we all had three real jobs, and we knew we wanted to start a business. It's just in our nature. And so there was probably about a year's worth of planning where we were thinking about different business ideas. We would have weekly conference calls with each other because we were actually all were in different locations at that time. I was in Austin, Chad was in California, Nehemiah was in Houston. And for a while, we had about just weekly conference calls kind of going over different product ideas or different business ideas. Finally, we decided that we wanted to sell something online as opposed to try to create a service or something like that. And there were a few options that we discussed. This was 5-6 years ago in the planning phases, and it just seemed very obvious that kettlebells were coming and we're here to stay, and there's a lot of practicality to them. It didn't seem like it was a fad, like some type of ab machine would be here today, gone tomorrow. Both my business partners are college football. They played college football, so they had some exposure using them. I admittedly, my first exposure was through CrossFit type workouts, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense. And so we were trying to figure out what our angle would be. How would we separate ourselves? How would we be different than anything else that existed? And we decided we were going to try to produce the highest quality we could, the absolute best kettlebells that we could, as well as offer the free shipping. And so that was kind of the deciding factor.
And did either of you need a bit more convincing than the others?
Yeah. So, like I said, from the beginning, everything has been pretty collaborative. And so there was some convincing. I think some of the other ideas we kicked around were like some decorative socks or something like that. So there were other business ideas. Eventually, we all got on the same page. And I think that one of the biggest lessons in business is sometimes you just have to go for it. And so we decided, we think we have these angles. We think we can execute, and let's just do it.
What were some of the points brought up against potentially opening up your kettlebell supply store?
Shipping costs is definitely one of them. In the beginning, we did not have any kind of special rates. We just had normal rates that anyone off the street could get, and that was just going to be a super expensive venture. Startup costs in kettlebells are not cheap. There's so many more products that you could probably get up and going for a lot less. But, to get started in the kettlebell business, you need a couple containers. And so your outlay of funds in the beginning is a lot higher. You also need somewhere to store them. So the biggest obstacles were going to be cost.
So you mentioned that you had a CrossFit exposure to kettlebells. Did you have much Kettlebell Sport exposure when you guys started?
No, we actually did not. We were very fortunate in that we got exposure to Kettlebell Sport pretty early on. So it was about 5-6 months in when we initially made a connection with Texas Kettlebell Academy. I believe they found us through social media, and they were going to be putting on their event, which they do every year in Austin, and we are now a part of. And they were looking for sponsors for the event. It just happened to coincide with around the time we were going to be coming out with a new competition kettlebell model. We are solicited for events pretty often, and even in the beginning we were, and we turned most of them down in the beginning. But as we talked to Aaron from Texas Kettlebell Academy and learned more about it, it just seemed to make a ton of sense as far as what our goal was for the business, is being able to focus specifically on kettlebell related items, not be a general fitness company. And so we decided that we would make the outlay of equipment that he needed, which for us was a big deal at the time. It was a few $1,000s worth of equipment, which was a lot for us at the time. We didn't quite have everything ready, so we had to pay an extra $4,000 or $5,000 to get like 40 kettlebells air freighted from our manufacturer to have at the event. And so that's really where it all came together. And that's where we made some of the connections to Orange Kettlebell Club and a lot of the organizations and lifters that we work with today.
Oh, okay.
So if the initial exposure with or the real substantial exposure with the Kettlebell Sport happened like 5 months in, at 5 months in, what products did you have already at that point, or what was in development?
So we had, that's a great question. We had our own version of competition kettlebells, and I would say they were nothing special at the time. They were pretty standard. They were nothing like what we currently provide today. We had powder coat kettlebells like we had today, essentially the same model. And so we had competition kettlebells, but as when you start a business, you've got to be ready to learn a lot, and you got to be open to learn a lot. And I try to think of it as we need to find out where we're wrong on things almost on a daily basis so that we can correct things. And through doing that, that's how we kind of realized, like, hey, these competition kettlebells that we're currently selling, like, there's nothing great about these. Lots of providers have a similar type, the type that just has fillers in them. So we need to start thinking about how we can have something a lot more unique. And that's where we did the sourcing for the model that we still currently sell. And that's how we ended up getting paired up with Aaron and Texas Kettlebell Academy.
So do you know much about the design of the kettlebells? Like, would you be able to kind of, like, if we ask questions in regards to it, answer some of the questions that we have?
Yes.
Okay. Just kind of some of the things we thought of back in 2015 leading up to the IUKL Worlds. So there was a lot of, there was rumor that the handles were going to be a different size. They were going to be 35 in Dublin, where most North Americans were used to 33. Right. So then there was a lot of panic as people were training. Did situations like this affect your guys' decision? Because you carry 33 and 35. Did you decide to add the second handle width, or did you guys always carry two handle widths? Like, how did you come about having the two sizes, and why?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question, and it's kind of been like the existential question of our company for so long, because everything that we've ever tried to do is so heavily based on what the lifters need and want.
Right.
I mean, no decision that we've ever made has, as far as the product goes, has been like, we think this is a good idea and we're just going to do it. It's always relied on the contacts and the resources we have in kettlebells to help make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 35 initially because that was the international standard at the time. And I think one of the benefits of not feeling like we knew everything about kettlebells in the beginning is we realized we need to have people we trust that we can go to for information. And so we were exposed to this debate very early on, because I know even at the initial Texas Open that we sponsored, some of the lifters there were used to lifting with 33s and they had some trouble and maybe didn't necessarily feel that great about a 35.
Right.
So we got to 35 at the time just because everyone we talked to, that was the international standard.
Mm-hmm.
After we decided that we really want to be the company that is the company of Kettlebell Sport, we want to be the provider for all the major events. We want to support the lifters. We want to get our feedback from the lifters. It just seemed like through conversations with people at AKA that it might go 33, it might not. And we felt confident enough in our brand at the time that if we put out a good 33 millimeter kettlebell, it would still sell.
Right.
And so we decided, let's go ahead and get the 33 millimeters just in case IUKL goes that way. We're not left in the dust because we want to work with lifters. We want to be the bell that people are prepping with for IUKL or any of the other organizations. And so we decided, let's go ahead and order a bunch of 33 millimeter handles, get a design out for that. And we just felt like the worst case scenario was, we'd still be able to sell them to the other lifters.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I've noticed, the handles have changed over the years. They used to be the same thickness, like from one end to the other. And
Right.
Now the handle kind of gradually gets wider as it connects to the bell. Was
Right.
this on purpose? Or, because for me, I really like the insertion. Like, I like how my hand goes through the bell. I don't know if that was part of the design or if it's just convenient for me.
Yeah. So that's another great question. And again, everything we've done has been so heavily based on lifter feedback and going to people we trust before we release anything. And so that design, it is actually a Russian design that I believe has been around for quite some time in Russia.
Oh, okay.
And so when we first learned about it and decided we want to replicate it, we knew lifters who had been to Russia and used kettlebells like that, and they had very favorable things to say about them. We also got an initial batch of 30 to 40 of them. And we sent them out just to quite a bit of lifters that we know, just for free to get their feedback. Hey, is this something you like? Hey, is this something you would want to work with? And these went out to all the top kettlebell lifters in the country, everyone at Texas Kettlebell Academy, a bunch of folks at Orange Kettlebell Club, people like Kim Fox, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And we send them out to get their feedback on all of them. And they all really liked it because they felt it was more ergonomic. Like if you look at your hand, how they would normally be holding a kettlebell handle, that shape is actually more natural than a perfect circle or a perfect 35 millimeter diameter. It's actually more of a teardrop shape.
Right.
So it actually feels a lot more comfortable to fit the hand more naturally.
Mm-hmm. And also another change that's kind of happened over the last couple of years is it used to just be a solid bell. Now bells have the hole. Is
Right.
there reasoning behind that?
Yeah. So like anything, and I think a lot of people take this for granted, especially people who may not be that into kettlebells, but kettlebells are like any other organism or product in that they evolve and they change and they get better over time. And even as a kettlebell business, you would think, well, you just sell hunks of metal, what's the big deal? But that's an example of where you got to constantly be on the lookout for new ideas and how to improve your product. And so that is the model that I referred to earlier that we were just about to come out with when we first got paired up with Texas Kettlebell Academy. And so the way that most kettlebells are made in the world really is it's a solid shell. It's like an 8-kilogram shell. And then to maintain the same size and dimensions regardless of weight, they have different proportions of like sawdust and ball bearings in them to achieve that desired weight. And so, like I mentioned earlier, where we knew we had to do something different, we knew we had to do something better. We discovered that model. Again, that's a model that had been in Russia for a while. And a lot of Russian lifters were familiar with that. And so we saw it just immediately made so much sense because, one, it eliminates the rattling around of the fillers on the inside so that the balance stays true over time. Most of the weight is in the top half of the bell, so it's a lot more comfortable and a lot easier to sit in the rack and overhead position. It doesn't pull down on you as much, which effectively makes it a safer bell as well. If you have less weight pulling down from the bottom of the kettlebell, it makes it easier to sit in that position. You don't have to worry about it coming down on top of you or pulling you over as much.
Right.
So that was definitely a conscious decision we made as far as, how can we help evolve this product? How can we help make it better and come out with a best-in-class product?
That's interesting. I never really thought, like, if the weight sat in the bell, because right when you said that, I'm envisioning someone with their arms overhead, and if the weight was sitting more in the bottom of the bell, that would probably pull them backwards. Or if it's sitting more closer to the handle, and if it's directly overhead and they've got a good overhead, they're going to be a straight line with their weight directly over them. So that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, and since you lift, you can immediately tell that difference. And I can just tell you, like, from people coming by our facility, wanting to buy here locally in Austin, who, they want to try out a couple different kettlebells. They've seen us online. Most of them are familiar with the traditional cast iron bell, but every time they rack competition kettlebell, they're like, is this the correct weight? Because it just seems to move so much easier for them because it's weighted in the top half of the bell, and it just seems to sit in those rack and overhead positions so much easier.
Do you guys sell very many non-competition style bells? Or do you find mainly people want the competition style?
Yeah, we do. We sell a pretty good amount of both.
Okay.
Our two top sellers are the 16-kilogram powder coat and the 16-kilogram competition bell. So they sell pretty evenly. We try to replicate some of the relationships that we have in the kettlebell sport world into traditional lifting circles as well. So we have similar type relationships where we're trying to work with different organizations or experts on those types of bells as well.
So when you're working, so you guys try to be very neutral amongst all the different kind of organizations or federations and try to just have like good relationships with them? Or are you guys trying to specifically associate with specific associations or?
No, we always want to be as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be very foolish to try to pick a winner in it. So much of that is just out of your hands because you're relying on, the marketing, the planning, the networking of those organizations themselves. I've never really seemed to have heard a great reason why there should be any animosity amongst anyone in the kettlebell sport world.
Right.
And certainly most lifters don't want that either. Obviously most lifters want to be able to go to a meet, whether it's such and such organization or another organization, and just compete in kettlebells. And so we try to approach that from the lifter perspective. The lifter is who we work with. That's what our business is based on. And so we try to replicate our business is what's best for the lifters.
I have to say, like, one of the reasons I wanted to like reach out to you guys and have a conversation and just kind of interview about your business and whatnot is I really appreciate how you guys are going with the lifter approach. And like, you look at your Instagram, your Facebook, you guys are really, you're sharing other people's posts. You're sharing other people's achievements. You're showing them using the kettlebells. I think that you guys have done an awesome job doing that. And that's it's not only going to help Kettlebell Sport grow, because you're not just focusing on Kettlebell Sport. You can see that you're just kind of sharing anything kettlebell when people are using your kettlebells. But I really appreciate the fact that it's only going to help our Kettlebell Sport community grow. What made you guys, do you feel like it's the current social media phase that pushed you guys towards that, or did you always have that vision when you guys started out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things that you just mentioned that I think that you would appreciate is, so we actually do sell a pretty good amount of traditional kettlebells. Like if you look online for different rankings, and like this kettlebell or powder coat kettlebell, we're right up there. If you look at any reviews, we're right up there as one of the better brands, more high quality brands. But one of the things that we do is when someone purchases from us, if they don't purchase a competition kettlebell, or even if they do, about 30 days after they purchase from us, we send an automatic email out that introduces people to Kettlebell Sport. So let's say that someone bought a powder coat kettlebell from us, they're just getting started. They want to do some kettlebell swings and some goblet squats at home. About 30 days after they purchase from us, they're going to get an email that says, like, hey, learn about Kettlebell Sport and why we like it and support it so much.
Oh, cool.
And it gives them an intro to it and actually takes them through a free tutorial that we've created so that they can start learning launch cycle. So we're definitely trying to help spread the gospel of Kettlebell Sport to the people that we interact with through our business as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's good to hear. Have you tried a lot of Kettlebell Sport yourself?
So we have, yeah, and it's hard, obviously. So, my business partners and I, we've had Aaron at Texas Kettlebell Academy draw us up some snatch programs, and we always envision that one of these days at one of the competitions we attend, we're going to actually compete and just kind of blow everybody's mind. So we definitely do it on our own. We've never actually stepped on the platform. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we all have athletic backgrounds. And so I think we can look at what's going on at a kettlebell sport event and just know how hard it is.
Right.
Like our minds were blown the first time we went to a kettlebell sport event because we just couldn't believe what people were doing. And we're all in shape. We're all healthy guys. And we're just like, we could not do what these people are doing,
Yeah.
We saw the first meet we went to, we saw Nakona Jodri. He did 150 snatch reps or something like that with 28 kilograms. And it's just something insane to us. And we're more muscular types. He's like a real wiry strength. And it just blew our minds what he was doing with the kettlebell. So it's a fine balance, I think, where we try to do it on our own, but we don't want to go out there and embarrass ourselves compared to all the incredible lifters.
Well, I have to say, knowing the kettlebell community, you would never embarrass yourselves. Everyone is always so supportive and positive and encouraging that I think you guys would just get the bug and then never want to stop. Because I think that's what happens. Like we see that with our beginner lifters. They get the bug and the adrenaline and they're just like, when's the next one? When's the next one?
Yeah, no, that's certainly true too. And I think that's one of the things that really stuck with us the first time we attended Wax World in California within the last couple of years is, there's probably 150, 180 competitors there. And the people who were even competing against each other were so friendly, and there are people who see each other, a couple times a year from opposite sides of the country, but they couldn't be more happy to see each other.
Yep.
And interact and catch up. And everyone's been so nice and friendly to us every time we go. You're exactly right. It is an incredible community of encouragement and people, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably one of the best things about it.
I think that's what draws people to it, to be honest, is just even though there's many of us who grind in our garage by ourselves, and then we meet once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year with similar people, and we're all, how's your training been? How have you been feeling? And you just catch up, and then you go away, you grind in your garage again, and then you come back and it's the same thing. And each time it's seeing each other's progress and whatnot, right?
Yeah. So what you just mentioned about training in your garage, and that it's a good way to tie back into your earlier question about social media. That's one of my favorite things to share on our social media is when you just have someone who's grinding away in their garage. I find that so compelling to think of, like, no one's really watching that person. They're doing it on their own, and they have their own personal goals and their barriers that they're trying to break through and succeed. And I can identify with that just because we have our own goals and barriers in our business that we're trying to get through on a daily basis and succeed. And I've always felt that was so compelling, something that we can share on social media. And I think that is one of the reasons why we have a good following on social media, is because when other people see that, or they see someone doing that in their garage or doing that at a park, that's something that they can identify with, and they're like, "Yep, I know what that's like. I know what that grind is like. I felt that. Like I've had this goal I've wanted to hit." And so I think it really strikes a chord with people when they see us sharing that, and it's helpful to know that there's other people like you going through that somewhere else in the world.
Oh, definitely. It's motivating. It's motivating to know, because I know I've had other lifters come up to me and they say, I only train by myself. And I was like, I completely get it. I go into the gym by myself too. And it's just in my, like, our garage is our gym, and we do train our clients in our garage. But right now I'm on not a serious training, so I joined the group. But usually, like, training up to Worlds, I was by myself in the garage 3-4 times a week. So I get that you have to be on your game, focused. You have no one there to yell at you or anything. So it's that understanding of each other.
And I just, whenever I see someone share that, I've always just felt like that's a reflection of, like, what your truest moments are like, where you're competing with yourself, and you have to compete with yourself before you're ready to compete against other people. And so, like I said, I've always just thought there was something so compelling about seeing people training on their own like that on social media, and I think other people feel the same way.
Yes, definitely, I agree. So, in Texas, what is the kettlebell community like? So we know that there is the Texas Kettlebell Academy. Is that the correct name? Mm-hmm. And then are there more clubs in the vicinity, or are they the main club? Or
Yeah, so I think Texas probably is one of the more popular states after California, and I would just tend to group a lot of states on the East Coast together because there's so much more proximity compared to when you live in the middle of Texas. You're 8 hours from everything. But,
okay.
Texas Kettlebell Academy is obviously fairly prominent. North Texas Kettlebell Club exists. They're usually at the meets, and we're usually at the same meet. There was another kettlebell club in Austin run by a woman named Joyce Luke. There are some lifters from that. They usually come to a lot of events. There's a guy named Scott Wells in the Houston area who he had some training and did some training with Steve Cotter, and so he was getting his gym into Kettlebell Sport. So there's definitely a number of gyms in most of the major Texas cities really starting to get into it.
Oh, neat. So it's growing in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have any question?
What year again, Jay, did you say that you guys started the company?
So we made our first sale to a stranger, maybe not a friend or family, in September of 2013. So we're about 4.5 years in. This September will be our 5th year.
Would that sale have been done specifically through the website online, or?
Yeah, it's we built our website, and it's one of the funny things when you start a business is we were like, well, we're going to have free shipping, we're going to have high quality kettlebells. Who's not going to buy from us? And that was just super foolish in the beginning. Obviously, you have to build trust and you have to build loyalty. And so, we probably had the website up for 2 weeks or so. No sales came through. I think I might have purchased one just to make myself feel better. And then just all of a sudden one night we were actually having like a team conference call, and I got the email notification on my phone, so-and-so just purchased something from your store. And I was like, hey, we just got our first purchase.
Did you guys frame it? Print it off and frame it?
Yeah, what was that experience like?
It was kind of surreal. it's interesting when you're on the other end of the transaction. I mean, we're so used to being the consumers ourselves. And so it's like, wow, it's like someone trusted our website, trusted our pictures enough to buy from us. And so, we wanted to just learn everything we could about this person. Who is this mysterious human being that would actually purchase from us?
That's kind of creepy.
Sometimes you got to be creepy, I guess, to try to learn about who's out there. But, I think I emailed the guy, hey, like, how'd you find us? And that type of thing. And, he just randomly found us on the internet. So that was September of 2013.
And sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say, probably for the first 6 to 8 months, we get 1 or 2 sales a week, something like that. So that was about the velocity. A good week would be like we had 5 or 6 orders in the store. And then about 8 to 9 months in is where I think we really started getting some traction and picking up from there.
And can you describe some of the trends over time, not only within the business, but what you're kind of seeing, happening on the outside, the trends in Kettlebell Sport, and how that was reflected in the operation of your business or sales or stuff like that? Yeah,
that's a great question. So kettlebells are definitely increasing. Like I think most people's initial exposure to them is probably through some kind of fitness program. But there are what I would just call kettlebell people out there, people who just love kettlebells, right? And they just believe in kettlebells. They've had success with kettlebells. And that type of person is increasing as more people learn how to use them correctly. Because when people know how to use them correctly, that's where they really start to see the positive effects. I think one of the fascinating things about our business is when we first started, most people did not know what a competition kettlebell is, most normal consumers. And that's still the case. I mean, I think most people, when they think kettlebell, they think like, the black cast iron type. But we've certainly seen a large uptick in competition style kettlebells selling each year, because more people appreciate them for the benefit of more comfort during swings, snatches, jerks, the weight in the top of the kettlebell, a bigger base, which is even great for like a boot camp type scenario. Let's say you're doing just like push-ups or dips or something like that. I think they're better for those because of a larger base. So more and more non-kettlebell sport people are starting to purchase competition kettlebells each year also.
I have a question about the adjustable kettlebell.
Yes.
Obviously, there's demand for it, especially with people who are in environments where they either don't have a lot of space or economically just don't have a lot of money. I have a client of mine or a member of our team who works out on oil rigs most of the time, and he has limited space. And so he had recently purchased an adjustable kettlebell for himself. But can you tell us what went into the R&D for that and how you guys decided about, whether or not you would introduce one in the first place?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it all kind of starts with the overall philosophy that I've mentioned a couple of times, which is like, even though we're selling kettlebells, we're looking to do something different. We're looking to innovate. We don't want to just sell kettlebells. We have other projects that we're working on now with like mobility, stretching, and meal plans, that type of thing also. But what went into it is we knew we wanted to design a competition kettlebell that would be up to the standards of the most serious lifters. And so we got a couple of prototypes done that were just general kind of shaped competition kettlebells. And we had those tested again by Texas Kettlebell Academy. I think we sent one to Ken Fox, and a couple other people, just try this out, beat the heck out of it for a while and let us know your thoughts. They ended up actually liking them. Folks like that have been in kettlebells for so much longer than us. They mentioned that a lot of people had attempted making adjustable kettlebells and no one ever really seemed to be able to make a good one. And so they seem to be really pleased with the basic structure, which is the rod in the middle, the weight plates around the rod, and then a bolt to secure it, and then screwing on the bottom. So after that, we just decided that we were going to get it made specifically to our competition kettlebell model, because that was the model that had been adopted by Orange Kettlebell Club at the time. So that had the most widespread adoption, and it was going to give us a way for people who wanted to go to competitions that use our kettlebells could save money and train if they had to go to another location as opposed to just their home and not take all their kettlebells with them.
And not need one of every weight.
Yeah. And I've mentioned Kim Fox a couple of times, and she's the perfect example. A world champion lifter, but she has to travel quite a bit for work. Because she's in the military,
right?
And so she's on base. She has to go to different locations, and so when you're trying to compete at the level that she's trying to compete at, you 100% have to train. There's no way around it. But you have a different program that might call for 1 or 2 kilogram jumps on a different day in your set, and so it's about an ideal tool as it gets for someone like her.
Mm-hmm.
It beats having to duct tape the weight plates on the bottom of the kettlebell.
Well, that's certainly what lifters were having to do, and we're doing for a while. That's for sure. But the feedback for that adjustable kettlebell has been really phenomenal. People really do like it. Honestly, we have a lot of trouble keeping it in stock. We've been out now for a couple months, unfortunately, but it's had a lot of success. That's for sure.
So you've been around for a number of years now, and you've seen an increase in demand, and you've responded with an increase in production. Are there any geographical areas where you're having trouble making a dent in, or any markets that you're having trouble making a dent in that you're trying to pursue?
Well, yes. I mean, the biggest obstacle is anywhere not in the United States or Canada, right?
Because your biggest sell is the free shipping.
Right.
Aside from all the other stuff, the high quality and all that stuff, the big draw probably for a lot of people is that free shipping. Yeah,
exactly. And just by the nature of what we sell, it's not cheap, unfortunately, to get, just one kettlebell to Europe. That's something that we've been working on for quite some time. We have about as favorable rates to Europe as we've ever had. But due to the nature, Kettlebell Sport is simultaneously a global community, but also a very small niche community. Mm-hmm. So lifters in countries around the world all follow the same people. They all know each other. They all follow the same account. So we actually do have a warehouse in Sydney, Australia now. So we are shipping in Australia. We have free shipping in Australia because we ship from a warehouse there. But the biggest obstacles are pretty much anywhere else in the world geographically, just because of shipping costs.
Interesting, because I was going to say you're obviously making a dent internationally, because I saw tons of photos of an Australian competition that was recent, or it seemed recent because it would have been on Instagram and whatnot. But
so we just sponsored the national championships in Albury at Lone Dog Training Facility there. And so that's for the Australian national team that will be going to IUKL World. It has just happened to work out really well. They found us and they approached us about sponsoring their competition about 2 years ago now. And so we examined it and we talked with our UPS rep to see if we could find options for shipping within Australia. And so that's kind of how we made our plunge into Australia, so to speak, with sponsoring their national championships and setting up a shipping warehouse there.
Which is great because they typically have a big team. Both times we've gone to Worlds, they've always had a good sized team. So you're putting the word out, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And because Kettlebell Sport is such a large and small community at the same time, that's why doing something like sponsoring a national championship is a great way to enter a country, so to speak.
Yes.
Because there's so much camaraderie and so much loyalty amongst those lifters that if you can provide good kettlebells to them and help support them in other ways, they're certainly going to reward you and telling other people about you. The nature of someone who's in the kettlebell sport is they're a kettlebell fanatic, right? So if they are having a conversation with anyone about kettlebells, and you've created a good product and you've helped them out, they're for sure going to be mentioning you in the conversation as far as the recommendation goes.
Jay, obviously an important part of running a retail business is being able to innovate on a relatively consistent basis. As much as, there's only so much that can or should be done with kettlebells in terms of design or aesthetic. That's probably something that you guys, think about is, how are we going to innovate? How are we going to stay fresh, et cetera, et cetera. And part of that is going to be dependent on how well you're listening to what's going on around you. Are there members of the kettlebell community that you guys stay in touch with to kind of see what's going on in the community? And do you guys make a point of heading out to events to pick up on kind of what the vibe is and what's happening, what's fresh, what's new?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've been a part of the Texas Kettlebell Academy event for 3 years in a row now. It's officially now Kettlebell Kings Texas Open. So you have lifters coming to Austin each year specifically for that. And that's a great opportunity to get feedback and meet people you haven't met before. So we had lifters from Toronto last year. We had lifters from New York. We had lifters from California. So we had people from all over, some people who I had not met with personally who came to our event last year. And, I always try to ask feedback, how the bells treating you? Is there anything you would change? What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? We've gone to the Wax World Championships last year, both the last 2 years. That's one of the bigger events in the world. You have people coming from South America, Russia to that event. And so certainly ask those people like Dennis Philip, what do you think about this bell? Is there anything that you would change? How could it be better? And so even though, the example of that is even though we have structurally had the same kettlebell for the last 3.5 years now that's used in competition, we have tweaked it along the way. The first change was our first couple of batches had stamped logos as opposed to recessed logos.
Right.
And so, if you have one of the old stamped logo bells, it's kind of antique at this time. But, based on listener feedback, we started getting them recessed into the bell, after about our third or fourth batch, so that there's no imprint on your arm. Same thing on the handles. So, we had fairly smooth handles like most competition kettlebells have when those first came out. And then through talking to lifters at different events, they suggested getting a more pitted handle for grip and for holding chalk. So we made that change. So even our popular model itself has gone through a couple iterations.
Do you personally have a favorite kettlebell movement that you like to do?
Yeah, I'm partial to snatch. I'm not quite sure why it is. But if I'm lifting by myself, and I certainly have found myself doing a lot more kettlebell workouts here lately. I like to do a lot of snatches, and that's where you asked earlier if we ever have a kid to Kettlebell Sport. I've never fully tried to train for an event, but I will try to do longer snatch sets. And I won't even tell you numbers because it'd be embarrassing compared to what y'all do.
And do you use the competition bell, or do you have a different style bell that you like to use for the snatch?
Yeah, no, I definitely use a comp bell. I do prefer comp bells. I use them almost any chance I get. When we first started, we were certainly a bit more agnostic to what someone bought from us. We just wanted to provide high quality kettlebells and let customers choose. And pretty frequently people who email or call in will ask, like, if you have a recommendation. And, previously I would have just said, it's kind of what you're used to and what your budget is. But now I would certainly tell someone that a competition kettlebell is it's just a much superior bell to a traditional cast iron bell because of the balance and the size and that type of thing.
So looking at all your social media, does anything stand out to you that has really impressed you? Like, have you come across something and you're just like, wow, I can't believe that person just pulled that off?
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time, So, we just reposted on Saturday. We just reposted Marty Farrell he hit his own personal goal of 15 snatch reps on each side with a 48 kilogram.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I was like, oh my gosh. And that would be an example. There's some different, what I would call strength athletes that we work with or repost frequently, and to see some of the stuff they're doing where, they're swinging or bench pressing like our 92 kilogram bells. That's just mind blowing every time I see it. So there's certainly no shortage of even the stuff that we repost on a weekly basis being really impressed. Or, if the inevitable conversation comes up with someone who's asking what I do, and, I run a kettlebell business and start talking about Kettlebell Sport, I'll be like, yeah, like you should see it. Like there's people, who snatch 35 pounds 200 times in a row. I mean, it's crazy. It's so impressive. So there's such a wide variety of impressive feats with kettlebells. It doesn't necessarily have to be just heavy weight.
Mm-hmm. So as we kind of come to an end, where do you see you and Kettlebell Kings? What is your vision for the company over the next 5 years?
It's a great question. I know our company goals is to actually meet demand. We'd like to solve that problem and become, the largest kettlebell provider in the world. I think that we can do it. We have the right people around us supporting us. Our biggest issue is just always not having enough stock. So that would be a goal for us, is to finally meet inventory demand. We're really working on some exciting things right now with kettlebells. If you've seen some of the more decorative stuff that we've done recently with Cerakote kettlebells. So, we can paint them in all kinds of really neat colors, camo patterns, stripe patterns. Those are on our social media. And that Cerakote paint is actually the most durable paint that's possible on a kettlebell right now. It's traditionally used for firearms. So
it won't chip like some of them, like you just see paint flying as they're long cycling?
Yeah, exactly. And so it won't chip like that. It won't flake. And on top of that, you can do virtually any kind of color pattern that you want as well. So you can make them look really cool. We just launched a new site within the last 2 weeks called living.fit. It's a brand new kettlebell. It's a lifestyle site that is centered around kettlebell lifting as the main form of strength and conditioning. So we'll be using that portal as like the main way to put out really professional, instructional kettlebell content. We collaborate on that with Brittany Van Schravendijk. And so she's one of the main trainers on that. We've got, over 300 videos now there with how to snatch, both sport style and hard style, how to swing a kettlebell, 300 different movements. We've got some mobility stuff, and stretching. We're going to be working on some meal plan stuff. So that's, what we're really excited about right now, is using that as a way to really teach people how to lift with kettlebells. Because what we found is, even though kettlebells are gaining in popularity, the vast majority of people still don't really know how to use them properly. And so having this portal, I think, is going to go a long way in people being able to educate themselves about how to use a kettlebell.
Can you repeat the website again, just so that people can get it?
Yeah, it's living.fit. So it's kind of a unique name. It's not a .com or anything like that. It's just living.fit.
Okay.
So if you were to go to the internet and type in living.fit or www.living.fit, that's where it is. And so that just launched. It's in its infancy right now. It's still probably about 300 videos. But over time, we want to use that to have people like Brittany or other competitors actually teach in-depth courses on kettlebell sport. As y'all know, you could do, an hour-long series just on like the snatch, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be creating a lot of content with professionals at living.fit to help spread the word about kettlebells to people.
Jay, one of the things that comes up every now and again is, will kettlebell sport ever be introduced into the Olympics? And there's a few reasons why it hasn't yet, and there's several criteria that need to be met before it ever does happen. But I want to know, as a as a kettlebell manufacturer, in Olympic weightlifting, the gold standard for the Olympic barbell, particularly on the Olympic stage, is the Alico bar, right? Alico is known for, that's the bar that you go with when we're talking the Olympics or other higher level competitions. So I want to know how hard you're going to push for that contract if and when Kettlebell Sport does make it into the Olympics.
Oh, it would be pretty hard. So, we're working on some things right now, and hopefully we will be providing for IUK Worlds this year. And, as you probably know, we do provide for WAC Worlds. So we're doing our best to position ourselves for what I hope is an inevitability. It certainly belongs in the Olympics. To me, I can't think of a more Olympic-like sport. As much as I like basketball and other sports, what's more Olympic-like than kettlebell lifting? And so we would be working very hard. That's for sure.
Cool. All right, Jay. I think that's all we are looking to get out of you today. We won't keep you any longer. Before we do part ways, though, I'd like you to go ahead and just give our listeners a recap of where they can find you guys and your company, what your social media is, and even if there's any particular things that you'd like to plug that are kind of your that are in their infancy and you're just releasing on top of the live.fit website even.
Sure. So, we can be found pretty much anywhere as Kettlebell Kings. The website is kettlebellkings.com. Our biggest two social avenues are Facebook and Instagram. On both of those, we're Kettlebell Kings. So in both of those avenues, if you have followed us for a while, you know that we try to put out really helpful, informative content with different professional lifters. And that's been our focus from the beginning of our existence, is putting out educational type stuff with our equipment. And then, like I mentioned, we are, just within the last 2 weeks, we've launched our new website, living.fit, which is our training website. And that has, right now over 300 different kettlebell movements in kettlebell sport and hardstyle. We're about to, within the next week, be uploading some videos on stretching, mobility. We have meal plans coming in the next 2 months. So those will be the main avenues where we can be found. You can always be reached via email at info@kettlebellkings.com. We always try to reply really fast, less than 12 hours. That's info@kettlebellkings.com.
Well, thank you, Jay. We really appreciate your time. And hopefully we'll meet you personally at a competition sometime in the future.
We do have February in mind in case any of you guys will be there.
Yep. I just have to recover from an injury so I can truly lift.
Yeah, well, that would be great. I would love to. Like we talked about the events, and one of the best things about going is meeting the people. And the first time we went to a big event, it was just so exciting because I met so many people that I'd interacted with over email and answered questions for. And they're like, "Oh, are you Jay who answered my question?" So meeting people at events is certainly one of the best parts about this community. That'd be awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, we'll look out for you for sure.
As well. Thank you very much for having me.